Let me explain something that a lot of people don't want to hear, but it's the truth whether you like it or not. Absence is powerful. And I don't mean disappearing to play childish games or trying to punish somebody by going silent. I'm talking about understanding how human nature works, especially a man's nature. See, men are wired to notice what changes. We are wired to react when something we're used to suddenly isn't there anymore. When you're always available, always calling, always checking in, always adjusting your schedule, you slowly become part of the background noise of his life. Not because you're not special, but because familiarity without balance kills urgency. A man doesn't miss what never leaves. When you pull away the right way, something shifts in his mind. He starts noticing the quiet. He notices that his phone hasn't lit up with your name. He notices that you're not asking where he is or what he's doing. And that silence starts talking to him. It starts asking questions in his head that he wasn't asking before. Why hasn't she called? Is she busy? Is she okay? Is she pulling away? And that's where the magic happens. Because the moment a man starts asking questions about you, you're already living rent-free in his mind. See, men don't process emotions the same way women do. A woman feels first and thinks second. A man thinks first and feels later. So when you pull away, you interrupt his mental routine. You disrupt what he assumed would always be there. And disruption creates awareness. Awareness turns into curiosity. Curiosity turns into attachment. He starts replaying moments with you. He remembers the sound of your laugh, the way you looked at him when you were serious, the comfort he felt just being around you. And the funny thing is, he didn't fully appreciate those moments when they were happening because he assumed they'd always be available. Absence teaches appreciation better than presence ever could. Now let me be clear. Pulling away doesn't mean becoming cold, rude, or emotionally unavailable. It means you start overgiving. It means you stop pouring into someone who hasn't decided what to pour back into you. When you pull away, you're not saying, I don't care. You're saying, I value myself enough to not overextend. And men feel that shift immediately. A man can sense when a woman's energy changes. He can sense when she's no longer chasing, no longer proving, no longer bending. And when that happens, his respect for her starts to rise. Respect is the gateway to a man's heart. Not looks, not sex, not attention, respect. And absence creates respect because it signals strength. It tells him you have a life, a purpose, a rhythm that doesn't revolve around him. Men are attracted to women who choose them, not women who need them. When you pull away, you're showing that you are whole on your own. And that makes a man wonder where he truly stands with you. Here's another truth people don't like to admit. Men bond through effort. The more a man has to think, plan, reach out, and pursue, the more emotionally invested he becomes. When you're always initiating, always fixing the gaps, always keeping the connection alive, you're doing the bonding work for him. But when you pull away, you give him the opportunity to step into his masculine role. You give him the chance to pursue. And when a man starts pursuing again, his emotions follow his actions. He doesn't even realize it's happening. He just knows. He wants to hear your voice, see your face, be in your space. Absence also reveals truth. When you pull back, you stop guessing how he feels. You stop analyzing text and tone. You stop overthinking because his response to your absence tells you everything you need to know. If he reaches out, if he checks in, if he makes an effort to reconnect, it's because you matter to him. If he doesn't, and absence didn't create the distance, it exposed it. And that clarity is priceless. It saves you from wasting time, energy, and emotional investment on someone who wasn't fully there to begin with. A lot of women are afraid to pull away because they think, what if he forgets me? Let me tell you something. If a man forgets you just because you gave him space, then he was never deeply invested in the first place. The right man doesn't forget you in your absence. He finds you in it. He feels it. He misses you. He thinks about you more when you're not there than when you are, because your absence reminds him of what you bring into his life. Pulling away also protects your dignity. There's nothing attractive about desperation, but there is something incredibly powerful about restraint. When you don't overreact, don't over-explain, don't over-pursue, you carry yourself with quiet confidence, and confidence makes a man pay attention. It makes him wonder. It makes him reassess. Suddenly, you're no longer predictable. You're no longer guaranteed. And anything that isn't guaranteed becomes valuable. So when you pull away like this, not emotionally shutting down, not acting bitter, but calmly reclaiming your time and energy, a man starts thinking, he starts reflecting, he starts questioning his position in your life. And those thoughts don't come and go, they linger. They show up late at night. They show up when he's alone. They show up when something reminds him of you. That's how absence works. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And those whispers echo in a man's mind far longer than constant noise ever could. Let me tell you something that changes everything once you truly understand it. A man treats you the way you allow him to treat you, not the way you hope he will, not the way you explain he should, but the way your standards silently teach him. Self-respect is not loud. It doesn't argue, beg, threaten, or plead. Self-respect simply adjusts behavior. And when a woman pulls away from situations where she's being undervalued, a man notices immediately, not because she made an announcement, but because her energy shifted. A woman who respects herself doesn't need constant reassurance. She doesn't chase attention. She doesn't compete for space in a man's life. She understands her worth so deeply that she refuses to overextend just to feel chosen. And that kind of woman is rare. Men encounter attention all the time. What they don't encounter often is a woman who can step back with dignity and say nothing, yet say everything. When you pull away with self-respect, you communicate power without ever raising your voice. Men respond to what they can feel more than what they're told. You can explain your needs 100 times, but when you change your behavior, it hits differently. When you stop being overly available, stop rearranging your life, stop filling in emotional gaps, he starts feeling the absence of your effort. And that absence forces him to look at his own actions. He starts asking himself whether he's done enough, whether he's been consistent, whether he's shown up the way a man should. That internal evaluation is triggered by your self-respect. Self-respect also changes the way a man values your time. When your time is easily accessible, it becomes easy to dismiss. But when your time is protected, it becomes precious. A woman who doesn't immediately respond to every message, who doesn't drop her plans on demand, who doesn't make herself emotionally available on command, sends a clear message. My life is full and access to me is earned. Men respect what has boundaries. Boundaries create structure, and structure creates value. A lot of women confuse self-respect with being distant or cold. That's not what it is. Self-respect is warmth with limits. It's kindness without self-sacrifice. It's love without losing yourself. When you pull away from overgiving, you're not withholding affection. You're redirecting it back to yourself. And that shift makes a man reevaluate how he engages with you. He starts noticing that you're no longer over-functioning for the relationship. And when you stop over-functioning, he has to either step up or step aside. Here's what really gets a man's attention: consistency and self-respect. Anyone can pull away for a day or two, but when a woman consistently chooses herself, consistently honors her boundary, consistently refuses to accept crumbs, a man feels the difference. He realizes that access to you is not guaranteed. And once access is no longer guaranteed, his perception of your value changes. He begins to understand that if he wants you in his life, effort is required. Men are competitive by nature, whether they admit it or not. When you value yourself, you activate that competitive instinct, not because you're playing games, but because you're no longer placing him at the center of your world. Suddenly, he's not just being enjoyed, he's being evaluated. And men step up when they feel like something meaningful is on the line. Self-respect creates stakes. It makes him think, if I don't show up right, I could lose her. And that thought sticks with him. Another truth is that self-respect protects your emotional energy. When you're constantly giving, constantly waiting, constantly hoping, you drain yourself. Pulling away allows you to regain your balance. And a balanced woman is incredibly attractive. She's calm, grounded, and secure. Men are drawn to the energy because it feels safe and strong at the same time. When you pull away from chaos and reclaim your peace, a man feels the shift and wants to be part of that stability again. Self-respect also removes fear from your decision. You're no longer afraid of losing him because you know you won't lose yourself trying to keep him. That confidence is powerful. It changes the way you speak, the way you move, the way you respond. You're no longer reacting, you're choosing. And men can tell the difference between a woman who reacts and a woman who chooses. One feels insecure, the other feels magnetic. When a man senses that you respect yourself, he starts to mirror that respect back to you. He listens more closely. He communicates more clearly. He becomes more intentional, not because you demanded it, but because your behavior set the standard. And if he doesn't rise to meet that standard, your self-respect gives you the strength to walk away without bitterness or regret. Pulling away with self-respect doesn't push a man away, it filters him. It separates the man who enjoys convenience from the man who values commitment. And the men who truly care, the men who see your worth, don't disappear when you pull back. They lean in. They think about you more. They reconsider their actions. They feel the weight of your absence because they understand what your presence brings. And once a man realizes that your self-respect is non-negotiable, he starts thinking about you not just in moments of loneliness, but in moments of purpose, planning, and intention. Because a woman who values herself changes the way a man values everything about her. Let me tell you where things really start to shift in a man's mind, and that's when curiosity takes over. Curiosity is one of the strongest emotional triggers there is, and most people don't even realize how powerful it can be. A man can ignore words. He can dismiss conversations. He can brush off emotions, but he cannot ignore curiosity. When something doesn't make sense to him, when something changes without explanation, his mind keeps going back to it. And when you pull away in a calm, confident way, you plant curiosity in his head without ever saying a word. Men are natural problem solvers. When something feels unresolved, they don't like it. When you're always explaining, always clarifying, always making sure he understands how you feel, you remove the mystery. But when you pull back and let your actions speak, his mind fills in the gaps. He starts wondering what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and where he stands with you. And once a man starts wondering, he starts thinking. Those thoughts don't stop when the conversation ends. They follow him into his quiet moments, his downtime, his late nights. A woman who creates curiosity doesn't disappear dramatically. She doesn't announce that she's stepping back. She simply becomes less predictable. She responds, but not instantly. She engages, but not excessively. She shares, but not everything. And that balance drives a man's mind wild in the best way, because now he doesn't have full access. And when access is limited, value increases. He starts replaying interactions, analyzing tone, remembering moments. That mental replay is emotional investment forming in real time. Curiosity makes a man emotionally chase without realizing he's chasing. He'll check his phone more often. He'll reread old messages. He'll think about whether he said the wrong thing or didn't say enough. And the reason this happens is because your pullback disrupted his sense of certainty. Certainty makes people comfortable. Discomfort makes them pay attention. When he's no longer sure where he stands, his emotions wake up. And awakened emotions don't stay quiet. Here's something important to understand. Mystery doesn't mean manipulation. Mystery is simply not overexposing yourself. It's allowing your presence to be felt instead of constantly explained. When you pull away, you give him the space to imagine you. And imagination is powerful. A man's imagination will always feel silence faster than reality ever could. He imagines your smile, your voice, your energy. He imagines what life feels like with you in it and what it feels like without you. That contrast is what keeps you on his mind day and night. When curiosity is activated, a man becomes more attentive. He listens more closely. He notices details he ignored before. He becomes emotionally alert. Suddenly, your words carry more weight because they're not constant. Your presence feels more meaningful because it's not guaranteed. And meaning is what turns attraction into attachment. Curiosity bridges that gap. A woman who understands this doesn't try to hold a man's attention by doing more. She holds it by knowing when to do less. Doing less creates space. Space creates thought. Thought creates emotion. Emotion creates connection. It's a natural sequence, not a trick. And the moment you start trying to control the outcome starts leaning toward you. Curiosity also brings clarity. When you pull away and let him wonder, you're giving him the opportunity to reveal himself. Does he lean in? Does he reach out? Does he try to understand? Or does he stay distant and passive? His response tells you everything you need to know. And that's powerful. Because curiosity doesn't just make him think about you, it shows you how much you matter to him. Men don't fall in love through pressure. They fall in love through realization. Realization comes when they connect the dots on their own. When they notice that life feels different without you. When they realize they miss your presence. Not because you demanded it, but because it added something meaningful to their world. Curiosity is what leads them to that realization. When a man is curious about you, he becomes emotionally invested without even knowing how it happened. He didn't plan it. He didn't decide it. It just grew, and that's the strongest kind of attachment there is, the kind that forms quietly, deeply, and honestly. So when you pull away in a way that maintains grace, confidence, and warmth, you leave room for curiosity to do its work. You don't chase his thoughts, they come to you. You don't force his attention, it finds you. And once curiosity takes hold, you're no longer just someone he talks to. You become someone he thinks about, wonders about, and emotionally circles back to again and again, because mystery doesn't fade quickly and curiosity doesn't rest until it's answered. Let me tell you the one thing people overlook when it comes to relationships. Actions never lie. Words can be rehearsed. Promises can be delayed. Excuses can sound convincing, but actions always tell the truth. And when you pull away the right way, you stop listening to what a man says and start seeing who he really is. That's where clarity comes from. Not from conversations that go in circles. Not from explanations that leave you confused, but from behavior that shows up or doesn't. When you're always present, always initiating, always smoothing things over, you give a man room to stay comfortable without being accountable. He doesn't have to show you how much you matter because you're already there. But when you pull back, when you stop feeling in the silence, when you stop carrying the emotional weight, his true priorities rise to the surface. He either steps forward or fades back, and both responses are answers. A man who truly values you will feel your absence immediately. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, unsettling way. He'll notice the gap you left behind. He'll feel the difference in energy. He'll sense that something meaningful has shifted, and that feeling pushes him to act. He reaches out. He checks in. He makes effort, not because you demanded it, but because your presence mattered enough for him to miss it. On the other hand, when a man doesn't respond to your absence, when he stays distant, inconsistent,